Raw, real, and just a little dangerous. This is Feral.
Welcome back to Feral. It is an absolute honor and delight to bring up one of my all-time favorite people I've ever met on the internet. I know that sounds hyperbolic, but it's true. And in the next half hour, you will absolutely see why it is true. Seth and I met through the magical wild world of podcasting. I was asked
we met through Shannon McGill.
Yes, and Shannon had asked me to be on a podcast that she was hosting with Seth. We became super buddies from there. And since then, I've watched several things happen. And one of the things that I've watched happen that just brings me so much joy is I have watched Seth not only blow up in his own podcast and his own podcast network and all of the other things, but I've seen Seth really come into his own as a podcaster, as a champion of podcasting, as an advocate for podcasters and thought leaders to get their voices out there, either as a host or a guest. And I've watched Seth become so outrageously popular that now he can only accept 1% of pitches that come in, 1%. And so when Seth and I talked about what we wanted to talk about or what he wanted to bring to this feral conversation, we talked about that reality, how 1% is spoiler, not a big percent. Right? Not a big percent.
It's good for email, but not for podcast.
It's great for email. So I brought Seth here today to talk to us about the secrets of how to pitch. And if you've been with us for the morning, I love the trajectory here. First, we had Eden giving us permission to be inconvenient and take up space. If you're worried about your pitches irritating someone, this is for you. Then with Danielle Weil, we just talked about how to add spiciness and emotion to your copywriting using some romance tropes.
You can't make up this flow.
What better, right? But I'm going to let you riff, dear. And for the love of God, stop pitching like this. Take it away, Steph.
Guys, your energy is incredible. Hey, everybody. Stop pitching that way. How to pitch the right way. I've been podcasting for 15 years. Who am I? I'm a former newspaper journalist. I'm a podcast veteran. Been doing this for around 15 years. I like to say that this is a second renaissance. We're in the third renaissance of podcasting. I was part of the second renaissance, not the first OGs, with the second round of people who are nuts to go into this. I'm a digital marketer and web designer. I've hosted upwards of 10 plus podcasts since 2010. Ran a small regional podcast network in the late 2010s. Current show is Entrepreneurs Enigma, which Michelle, who's in the chat, has been on. And he's been on, and maybe many more of you will be on at some point, if you pitch me correctly. And Digital Marketing Dive, which we also had Annie on that one as well. So that was fun. Digital Marketing Dive started in 2018. That's going its fourth season. Entrepreneurs Enigma is a hard thing to say out loud, but is kind of going. There's no season per se. And I coach both aspiring and new podcasters and aspiring podcast guests on how to get them to master their craft. So let's see if this button keeps working for me here. So I have a 99-1 rule. 99% of the pitches I receive that come through asking me to guest on my show don't get on, but they get on, more likely they get on if they are pitching themselves versus a PR person pitching for someone else. So 99% chance if you're a PR person pitching someone else, you're not going to get on my show unless you take some of Danielle's writing critiques and put them to use, and every once in a while they pique my interest, and you're that 1% that gets through. Now that flips when you are pitching yourself. When you pitch yourself, you have 99% chance of getting on, or at least getting a conversation with me, which then usually get on, but then there's a 1% chance you're just not the right fit, and I'll just be honest, like, hey, you're not the right fit, too many of this industry, too many of that industry, trying to keep things nice and fun. Let's see. There we go. The pitch is send a good first email with what you think why you'd be a good guest. And please, for the love that all is holy, listen to an episode or two before you pitch the show. That is crucial. So you're not pitching something doesn't make any sense for the show. Don't blindly pitch And what's more, don't try to fake that you listened because like literally my show is formulaic. If you listen to it, you're going to know how it goes and how you can be a good asset to it. Be honest, be genuine, show that you value the podcaster's time. If you're not the right fit for the show, save your time and effort. Find another show that is better to fit for you. Also, email the podcaster at the email address provided if there is one. Don't email them at all their email addresses for the love of the all is effing holy. Find the email address and email them in one spot. I get people emailing me my business email address when I have a podcast email address that is out there. You can find it. You can find me. I'm all over the place. So that will get you in the spam box very fast and is not a good look. So don't do that. So next slide. Follow up. Please don't be aggressive. Don't give it a few days or give it a few days. Don't go the next day saying, hey, I haven't heard from you. Just bumping this back to the top of your inbox. Don't do that. You're going to end up in that 99% rejection very quickly. Don't email the podcaster at all their email addresses. I just said that. That's a redundancy, but it's meant to be there for a good reason. Don't do that. Don't over follow up. If you don't hear back after the follow up, move on. There are a ton of podcasts out there. I think of the active ones, there's 200,000 podcasts are active, and there's 4 million that are out there. So there's plenty of podcasts to go look for. So save time and take a hint. When the podcaster doesn't respond to your pitch email, it might be a sign. And that guy down at the bottom should be dialing up a fake phone, but it didn't work. So, and if you get rejected, be gracious. Don't get defensive or discouraged. You're just not the right fit for the show, and not at that time. So here's an example. I'm going to share this deck with everybody at the end so you can copy what my little spiel is. It's like, hi, insert something about their show that you like, then go into you can have a canned-ish response of your background. Copy and paste that in because you shouldn't have to write that every single time. Email pitch continues at the top. Between the greeting and the formulated copy, add something personal about the show, how you liked it. How I do this. I listened to an episode or two. What a surprise. I show that I appreciate what they're doing by showing effort. It's not that hard. Did you also notice that at the bottom there's a media kit with a short URL? Yes, that is very important. Also, don't use Bitly. Bitly's gotten very spammy, so just find another URL shortener. If you need a URL shortener, I can build you one, so let's talk. The media kit. What a coincidence. Provide a Google Doc with your headshots, a bio, and your links. This is where the bare minimum. You should add your social media statistics if there is any. If there isn't, don't worry about it. Make sure that it looks nice, and then shrink the URL because Google Doc URLs are off the screen. And then add to the bottom of your pitch email. A little bit of effort goes a long way. So I'm going to go open this up to questions at the very end, and then connect with me. If you want to scan it, my giveaways, get the free Podcasting 101 ebook. It's around 18 pages of goodness. At least I think it's good. Version 2.0. And that QR code should I tested like 15 times, but could still break. If it does, and you will let me know, and I'll give you the actual link. But free podcast ebook, scan that URL, and then also if you went to podcasting, deck that went through rather fast. It's at that short link down below. It's going to put 2 QR codes up there, but it got my phone confused. So Andy, if you want to come back up, let's chat. I talk pretty fast. Our Canva one-pager is definitely okay, Allison asks. Yeah. Canva one-pager, you can go as creative. I mean, if you can fit everything on one page, great. I have my bio on one page. I have like my intro bio. I usually have 2. I have one that I wrote, one that ChatGPT kind of came up with. It calls me an ink stain journalist, which I thought was kind of humorous. Like I said, hey, if you want a flowery one that's not really me writing, but it's funny, use this one. I have one that I wrote that's a little bit more simpler. Then I have my picture, I have my stats, and then I go from there. So yeah. Sarah says, I just got pitched via my website contact by someone who wants to pitch on my behalf to podcast hosts. I would pass. There's a great service out there called Podmatch, which there are some people that pitch through agencies via that, but you should just do it yourself. I mean, literally, you can spend an hour a week pitching, and it's fine. You'll get some hits. I mean, if you pitch yourself, it's more genuine. don't write, honestly, when you're pitching, don't write a book if you can help it. I mean, it's sometimes that 1% doesn't get through because at that moment, I didn't have time to read it and it gets archived. So that sometimes goes that way. So what is a good giveaway when you are, whoa, going too fast here. Whoa, Allison says, what is a good giveaway when you are a guest? I've not had luck with conversions. What are your tips? Honestly, an ebook, if you don't get any conversions from the podcast, use the podcast itself. Ask if you can use the raw copy or their final version, and then you can cut it up and use it yourself, or if you can get their clips to share out yourself regularly. A lot of podcasters are very fine with giving you not the unedited version, but the edited version, and then you could take that into something like Opus Clip. I think opusclip.com. Don't quote me on these URLs. But Opus Clip, and then it will AI find the gems, or they may have already done that. So that's another great place to go. More of that in implementation day when I talk about just get your podcast started, but a lot of that will apply to being a guest as well. So, and he says podcast is a lovely space. Yes, Alex is great. But you can do it without Podmatch. I find Podmatch easier because it kind of pairs you up nicely. Pitches you get in the audience, he says the pitches they get from third parties tend to be overwrought and annoying. Yeah, exactly. And Allison, look, grab some time with me. In the ebook, there should be, and I'll check this afterwards, or just reach out to me, DM me, and we can chat. I give a free 15-minute consultation, and we can just chit chat for 15, 30 minutes about that. Say you found me on Feral, and we'll chit chat.
All right, so let's talk about lying.
Don't lie.
Let's talk about some of the lies that we see all the time that are either ChatGPT formulas or things that people have been taught to say that we automatically know that you're pitching badly and full of shit. Number one, I've been listening to your show and.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. But if I've been listening to your show and then it's something that only they would know.
Yes.
Then that's not a lie. If it's I've been listening to your show and I want to talk about these three things that have nothing to do with your I can curse.
Yes,
effing podcast. Okay, fucking podcast. Then don't. Then that's a clear sign that you did not do your legwork.
Yeah.
Not a good one. Go wash the dishes and listen to a podcast. My podcasts are 20 minutes long for crying out loud.
Not all of them are 16 hours of Dungeons and Dragons.
I agree.
But at the same point, for the longest time when I was running Too Legitimate to Quit, it was unbelievably easy for me to see if the people that had pitched me had ever actually listened to the show, because it was a pop culture,
from real
small business podcast. Every episode, exact same thing, like you said, formulaic. And so if people wrote to me and said, I've been listening to your show and I want to come on your show, and they didn't turn around and say one of two things, and my pop culture tie-in of choice would be this, and or I'm not sure what my pop culture tie-in would be, but I'd love some direction from you. If they didn't say one of those two things, I knew they didn't listen to my show. So many podcasters, by the way, have their own formula where they ask the same question every time as an intro or an exit, or where
I get the same three questions, and I don't, as a journalist, I don't give my questions out ahead of time, but if you want to know them, it's literally the same three questions. We shoot the shit for the first 15 minutes and then we have three questions.
Right. And so that becomes like, wouldn't it be amazing, Seth, as Mr. 1% pitcher, if somebody came to you and was like, hey, I notice you always ask three questions and I love those questions. And although I'm sure my answers will change on the day, here's my idea on what I might say to those three questions.
Brilliant. You be on. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that might even get you past the preliminary call I have. Not only do I do that, I have a preliminary call, which is like a 5-minute quick call, run through a few things that no one listens to. Yeah. And because no one comes to the show with headphones or whatever. I'm like, and also, here's another thing. Follow the fucking directions that the person is taking the time to write in the calendar scheduler. Read the RTFD is a real thing. Read the directions. Effing directions.
Yes.
Put headphones in. If you don't have a microphone, that's fine. We'll figure it out. But at least get headphones so that it doesn't reverberate all around.
Please. And what you do in between pitches matters too. If you get on a show
Yes.
and you don't share that
Oh,
show,
please share this show
we're not
out.
going to know. I mean, the average listener is not going to know if you don't share the show. However, hosts watch for other hosts. And if I see that someone is sharing, it's a lot easier to see if they are than if they're not. But if I see someone is enthusiastically sharing an episode that they're on, whether they're right for my show or not, that's going to stop my LinkedIn scroll. That's going to show me that this is someone, let alone maybe they're not a great guest for me, but this is an enthused, invested, engaged
Amen.
thought leader that I should be paying attention to if what they're talking about is necessary or lovely for me that day, right? But like, how else can we be demonstrating good podcast etiquette?
I mean, Iris has a good thing here. Have a great directional mic. I mean, I agree to an extent, but a lot of times these podcasters, when you're just podcast guests, when you're just getting started, you can at least get headphones.
Right.
A lot of times your MacBook microphone sucks, but it's not that bad if you have headphones in, because I can always bump up and change the quality, and put studio sound in Descript, which is an editing tool that makes you sound like you're actually on a directional mic, because their background noise is actually pretty good for AI usage. And I'm not a big proponent of AI, but AI is pretty good in certain aspects.
I love AI video and audio editors. I'm not mad about it.
They just work.
I also employ human audio and video editors, and they are non-competitive to each other. I use them for very, very different things.
Absolutely.
I am dropping Seth's own affiliate link for coming to join us at Implementation Day. If you have not started your podcast yet and you want to, or you want to explore the wild land of podcast guesting, make sure that you're joining Seth on Thursday. Gonna have to look into headphones. Iris, one lovely thing about headphones is that it always makes your hair look great.
Yeah, it's a natural headband.
Right? And I mean, and you can wear
I don't have hair, so
yeah, but you got a hat.
That's branded. Look at it. Woo, it's branded.
How many times, of course it is, how many times should we follow up before we assume that we should stop irritating someone? Again, we want to be inconvenient, but we don't want to be irritating.
Twice. I would say after 2 times, you're not getting on. And I would do one, maybe 2 or 3 days after you wrote the initial pitch, and then one maybe a week later, because maybe the person's on vacation.
Yes.
After that, if you don't hear back, they're not being rude. They're ghosting you because they are just so freaking busy that they, this is not, you're not making money directly on podcasts. They're making podcast money around your podcast.
Yep.
So you'll work on the stuff that's making your money, and the podcast is just one way to help brand yourself to get on and out there and make money. And it's the same thing with being a guest. Being on people's shows helps. I was just on a podcast with a guy, a Gen L in the UK, and the name Breakthrough Marketing Podcast, something like that. It's all over my LinkedIn. But it was a 10-minute podcast.
Because you shared it. It's all over your LinkedIn because you shared it.
Exactly. And it's shared, but it's also a 10-minute podcast, 3 questions on how to ruin your podcast. So it was exactly kind of, it was fun. Like, how to ruin your podcast.
Carol.
Wasn't that was fun.
So talk to me really quickly about aspirational big show pitches versus small show pitches versus new show pitches. Does it matter if a show is small? Does it matter if a show is big? Should I pitch them differently?
Any differently. Pitch them the same way, same respect. If they are just getting started, you can be that first person to could have found the next Entrepreneur's Enigma podcast, not to pat myself in the back.
Excuse you, this event is called Feral. You will now pat yourself. In fact, everybody, we're going to do it. We're going to call it the Seth moment. Everyone take your hand of choice and pat your own beautiful back. Pat that back.
Pat your back.
Pat it all. But yeah, do pat your back. And okay, so show up, be gracious, share the show, show that you've cared, follow the instructions, follow up in a human way at least once, maybe twice. Insert yourself into the ecosystem, be supportive, share the show. If you want to be on the show, share the show. Big show, little show, who cares? I've made more sales off little shows than big shows. So before we kick everything over to break, does anything come to mind as either one of the best pitches you have ever received or the worst pitches?
Worse I can go. The good pitches get lost because they're good and I like them and they're done, they're out. The worst pitch is a financial planner not listening to my show, not listening. He works for a big conglomerate. It's Entrepreneur's Enigma. He works for a big conglomerate, and is saying I could talk about 401ks. I'm like, number one, you're not an entrepreneur. Not an entrepreneur. You work for a big corporate conglomerate, and we don't talk about financial topics on the show.
Mm-mm.
So I actually went back and said, try harder. And it was
yes,
or try harder.
yes.
And don't write me back, please. And
You
so
know,
back, and he was like, I'm sorry, I should listen to your podcast. I'll apologize. I'm like, well, that's good. Just don't blatantly, don't scattershot.
right? This has been preschool behavior with Seth. Nice to meet you.
Exactly.
Come on now. What about one of the best? Anybody stand out as really having done their homework or really making
Annie,
it special?
you were one of the best because you were like, Seth, can I please be on your podcast? I love you. That was the best pitch ever.
We joke about that, but actual intimacy, when you find it in small business, in online entrepreneurship, in this digital world, when you find someone that you really resonate with, that
Absolutely.
relationship goes a long way. So at the end of the day, the pitch is only going to get you so far. The relationship is what matters, because you can't just go to every single person and be like, hey, I love y'all.
Amen.
Hey, this is the best thing ever. But when you meet someone as brilliant, as loving, as intelligent, as generous as Seth, and they seem to like you too, you
You're my
gotta
fellow
build that
squirrel.
relationship.
Even though you're a raccoon, you're my fellow squirrel.
Yes, you're a squirrel, I'm a raccoon. We are rodents together, you and I. Seth, you got any closing words for us today?
Go pitch and do it the right way.
How many pitches is a good goal to set for a week?
A week, I would do 4 or 5, because you do as many as you can fit in an hour and do it well. Don't do more than an hour a week. Don't do a half an hour a week. It should take you maybe, listen to the podcast throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
Don't listen to them all. Like, the hour should be pitching, but that's really what you need to do is, about half an hour to an hour, as many as you can fit in there that you can do quality.
Oh, I freaking love that.
Raw, real, and just a little dangerous. This is Feral.